All right, so we got Gary Nolan there. Look who showed up. Tim Burchett, y'all. There's more. We got Commander David Fravor with the boots on, y'all. That's what I'm talking about, bringing in Texas style. South by Southwest is such a fun event, man. It's such a fun event. If y'all aren't familiar, it's a festival that happens in Austin, Texas, yearly in March for about 2 weeks, more or less. It covers tech, music, film and TV, food, everything. It's all over the city. It's so much fun to do. Not just, being a guest and going is a lot of fun, but also, I used to work it, like I said. God, I've got so many South by Southwest stories I could tell y'all, like crazy shit that happened to me that I did, who I worked with, crazy stories. Because that type of festival is like, you literally could be at a bar watching Lady Gaga perform for 50 people. I'm not joking when I say that. That's how the festival is. It's absolutely so ridiculous. You know what I mean? I had a night out with Snoop Dogg one time. That's not a joke. At a private party of his one night after a South by. Yeah, things can happen in an instant, and that's what I love about it. So they go and show this film. There's Carl Nell. Look at that. Boom. We got Jim Semivan showing up. And then we have Dan Farah here. Let's get this picture a little bit better. He is the director and producer of this film. He put it together. Boom. The man behind The Age of Disclosure. And then we got Hal Puthoff, who was actually based there near Austin, downtown Austin, right? And Eric Davis is in the film too. I don't know if he made the premiere, though. I haven't seen any pictures of him. We got Jay Stratton, who is considered a lead in the film, right? And there it is, Age of Disclosure. And then here's a nice little picture they took outside that I used in the thumbnail. You got Gary Nolan, Hal Puthoff, Tim Gallaudet, Dan Farah, Carl Nell, and Jim Semivan right there behind him. You can see at the Paramount, which I've been to many times. The Paramount is awesome. Got Ryan Graves here, right, doing a little interview. He went, and then this Q&A that's right here. Okay, they did a Q&A after, which we're going to watch. It's over 20 minutes, so we're going to watch that, actually. And there's some nuggets in there, right? And then again, we're going to go over some reviews of the film because they are out in big publications, y'all. This is getting the main spotlight that big blockbuster movies get, right? Now, what happens in that spotlight, sounds like people are excited, but there is one review from very popular publication that's not happy with the film. So we'll get into that and find out why they're not happy, right? All right, let's see here. I tell you what, let's watch that Q&A and we'll save the reviews for afterwards. So let me get that Q&A pulled up. Again, this is a Q&A at South by Southwest directly after the film was shown. Shout out to the Magenta Project, I think. They put it up. I don't know if they filmed this. I'm not sure who filmed this. But it says right here, The Age of Disclosure, South by Southwest, March 9th, 2025, Q&A featuring Dan Farah, David Fravor, Ryan Graves, Gary Nolan, and more. Let's make sure we got the highest quality here, even though it should do it automatically. All right. Boom. Let's get this going. Real quick before I start here. Shout out to Costas Limnios. Hope I said that right. Left a comment, says, I saw it. David Grush appears and says, it's morphing time, and then disappears off frame. That's funny. What is interesting is David Grush is not in this. Let's think about that for a second. Why is David Grush not in The Age of Disclosure? Why is he not a part of that film? It's the only odd thing, to be honest, is like, why is he not in this movie? He is exactly the person you would put at the forefront of a movie like this. And that is interesting. I don't know if he was approached and declined, or he was never approached, or maybe it was planned and things didn't work out and they had to get the film out. So they were planning on having him in, but they just couldn't lock it down. I don't know. But that's something, I think that's a fair question to ask. Why is David Grush not involved? And there's probably a reasonable explanation. But I definitely think people would want to know. All right, so let's get this going.
I don't know. The first time I saw this film, I thought, how am I going to sleep tonight? I feel like you might be having
I think the audio's okay. Let me know in the chat real quick, y'all. How's the audio on that? I'm watching the chat real quick. Let me know. How's the audio? Audio's good for that? That quick little thing I played? Yeah, audio's good. Okay. Let's do it, y'all.
like a similar experience, because like, how am I supposed to go about the rest of our week like it's normal? I hope you talk about this film, and I can't wait to talk about it with you. Please help me bring out the director of this film, Dan Farah.
Golf clap, y'all. Golf clap. Love that theater. Such a great theater in Austin.
Dan, this is unprecedented.
Yeah, let's do it. But first, before we invite just some folks that's want to thank.
Yes.
Starting with you and South by Southwest. Thank everyone here for coming out, and hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a huge thank you to all the interview subjects who greatly participated in the film and put their trust in me. A lot of them are here today. Some of them obviously are coming up now, but had a lot of help and support behind the scenes, and I'm grateful for all of it. I want to thank my fiance, Allie Feinstein, who beyond supportive and understanding what consumed our lives for 2.5 years going down the UAP rabbit hole. And I want to thank Born Ready Films, Sheriff Center office here. She's one of the EPs. Our partner, Aaron McDonald, super supportive from the very beginning. Some key members from the production team are here that were in the trenches with me daily. I want to call out Colin Frederick, that's over here somewhere. So, the line producer, and wore a lot of hats on this film. Couldn't have done it without you, buddy. Vincent Wren, our amazing cinematographer, is here. NOAA, composer, did an amazing job. He's over here somewhere. My brother Andrew Farah is also an EP on this journey with us. Now, I'd like to invite some of the interview subjects that are here with us. Let's see, I have a list here. So, start with Brett Featherston, former director of aviation security on the White House National Security Council. Commander David Frater, former Navy fighter. David Frater. We got Dr. Gary Nolan, Stanford University School of Medicine, who was advisor of CIA, ATIP, and the UAP Task Force on biological effects. Jay Stratton, former director of the UAP Task Force. Mike Boyle, former NASA official, member of NASA's UAP study team. Lieutenant Ryan Graves. And on behalf of Congress, Congressman Tim Burchett, who's now a member of the House Task Force on the declassification of federal secrets. And Admiral Tim Galloway. So before we start this Q&A, there's other people in the audience that were in the film. We only have so much room up here, so I'd love for everyone to stand up just so we can give you a round of applause. start. I'm just so grateful that all these guys and everyone here and everyone who couldn't be here put their trust in me. I'm comfortable doing this and bringing this information out to the public. Couldn't have done it without you guys. And yeah, it means the world to me. So.
All right, let's get this started. Obviously, this is unprecedented. It's groundbreaking. Thank all of you for participating in this film and Dan for making this film for us. This is obviously something that we could talk about for hours and hours, about all the things that you learned through the process of making the film. But now that it's been shown for the first time, what do you feel like is the most surprising realization for you?
For me, I would say, despite the fact that this is clearly a very serious situation and there's tremendously high stakes and leadership from both sides of our government, both political parties are clearly on board, taking it seriously. Despite all of that, the public is largely very unaware, totally in the dark. And so my hope is that this film changes that, or at least starts the process of changing that. And yeah, that's the most surprising thing for me. When you meet very aware people who all the news are well read and they're clueless to all of this. So I'd like to hope that the film will change that.
I think it will also, it's such a good disinformation. I want to see like part 2, 3, 4 as things start to get disclosed. Jay, thank you for being here and for making so much history behind the scenes and everything. I know you helped so much in the process of making this documentary. Can you say a little bit about how it feels seeing, a plan that you really like pushed into motion and all the hard work finally come to light in the public way?
Sure, on the big screen here at South by Southwest. Wow. And this is for all of you, and this is for humanity. And thanks, Dan. So, very important message, and I'm so proud to be a part of this and bringing this to you and really kind of turn it around on you, right? It's in your hands. Lots of time over the years, countless hours with Congress, with the executive branch, pushing this message forward. And what I want to say is, in those countless hours, I have given them information. I've given them not only the existence of non-human intelligence, but the address to go look to see it. And they were denied access. So with your help, and your help, let's get this going.
Commander Fravor, you are, I think, the only Navy fighter pilot that I know about who seems super chill and calm, like chasing a UFO. When you were chasing them, being that calm, what is the thing that makes you feel like the most worried about this topic?
Well, I will say, it's 20 years ago. We didn't have the technology then. We don't have it now. We're not going to have it 10 to 20 years from now. So that's disheartening right now. What's the worst fear is that if an adversary gets it, North Korea, China, Russia before us, because it is so game changing and it'll basically take everything that we have today and make it obsolete.
Terrifying. We're not ready. Congressman Burchett. Burchett? All right, thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Obviously, yes. Oh yes, we're so happy that you're here. Clearly, this topic, like we've said, is a bipartisan one. Do you feel like that should help us to feel maybe a little bit optimistic about what you and your colleagues in Congress can do and that you might be successful?
Sure, but I don't trust anybody, so.
Very Texas.
I'm the reason we have the committee, the hearing in the House. I raised hell, and, I was told I was going to be chairman of it, I think, 18 hours before, and then all of a sudden I wasn't chairman. You never see me sitting in the chairman's thing, so there's a lot of things that work in all this, and it has nothing to do with party loyalty or anything like that. It's greed, power, it's corruption, it's everything that runs from Washington, D.C. And I am one of those crazy Christians, in the world. I mean, I'm a fundamentalist. I believe Jesus died on the cross for my sins, and I don't hate anybody that does. But wait a minute, I'm not going to have an offering or an altar. But I just, you know, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it one more time. Every night I go out and I take my dogs out to go to the bathroom. That time they go at 2 o'clock in the morning. They won't go like everybody else. And I look at those stars and I think, wow, the light from those stars left there before the time of Christ. And the vastness of God's great universe. It's more than I can comprehend. And I just, I don't fear them. I think it's just another one of God's creations. And you know, I'll go to my deathbed thinking that. And I thank you for making this wonderful film, brother. Do not trust Washington. As we say in East Tennessee, it's crooked as a dog's leg. And the polling show that more than half the people in this country think we're not alone. And guess what? Oh, NASA wants to study it. CIA wants to study it. You know what that means? More of your money. They already got it. Tell them to turn it loose. Tell them to turn it loose.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited to see. For Brett Pedersen, I'm gonna have to read this. You were the head of aviation security on the White House National Security Council, and you represented the Federal Aviation Administration on the government's UAP task force. Do you feel like we are currently underestimating the safety of the flight issues that are talked about in this, and like what is actually gonna, you know, the issues for the nation's air safety around this topic?
Yeah, absolutely we are. I think history shows we underestimate quite a few things until they really kind of creep up on us, like 9/11. And then we're realizing, oh, we've missed all the signs all along. And so thanks to Dan for starting the conversation. I think, you know, December with the drone incidents we had in New Jersey, all across the country in the last couple of years, and the fact that we've been trying, and Jay was big to pilot this, trying to get commercial pilots to acknowledge that they're seeing stuff and then report it back to the federal government. We've got a long way to go. We're still having problems with just identifying drones, but UAP should absolutely be part of that. DHS came out a long time ago with see something, say something. So if there's anything else I can say about underestimating it, it's in your hands. So if you see something or you know somebody that has it, don't be afraid. It's hard to identify things, but let the professionals take it, but make sure you pass it along. And we definitely need to have the government be more transparent in that ability.
Now, one of the things when I watched this, the idea that they don't use radar anymore was like, wait, what? Like, so many things in this film. For Lieutenant Ryan Graves, you've made it a personal mission to really publicize the air safety concerns that were presented. Can you talk about what you think needs to happen to actually make progress in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working on this issue both with commercial pilots and military pilots since I got out. I learned in 2017 when the New York Times article came out that we saw mentioned here. I saw that as a cry for help, that there weren't the proper procedures and line of access to be able to resolve this issue. And I took it upon myself to provide a resource for pilots and others to report to. And what's very clear to me is that this is an ongoing issue for them. They have to deal with this in the course of their professional duties, and they don't have the proper tools or mitigation processes in place in order to deal with this. And so they're left out there on the front lines dealing with something that can be quite disturbing and quite powerful to people. And they essentially have to keep it to themselves without being able to share that or pass it to someone that can help resolve it. And that's what I'm working on. We need to have standardized reporting across the United States, both for military and commercial pilots as well as civilians. We need to have the proper resources behind that reporting system to be able to investigate, run down, and potentially advance the conversation about what we're seeing in the skies and provide those safety reports to pilots so that they can accommodate them and be prepared for them when they first see them. And I think this film that they put together is going to have a great impetus on removing the stigma that prevents a lot of those pilots from reporting as well.
Pluto's not here. Where's Hal?
There he is.
He's there, come out. I was like, wait a second, I don't think he's here. next question was for you. Since you have been the key guest, scientist. Yes, we're so glad that you're here. Okay, as a chief scientist at ATIP, I know you know better than anybody the breakthrough technology could be used for good or bad. And when we talked about the energy source of UAP and how it could be clean energy, but also weapons of mass destruction, you said that you would put your vote for making a humanitarian issue and opening it up to the world. Do you think that humanity can handle that responsibility?
I think so. I think, behind the scenes, when each of us are asked to be part of, say, a podcast or something, we all sort of shrank from it because, there'd just be too much chatter about what we did. The brilliance of what Dan Farah did was to quietly go behind the scenes, talk to 34 people, and say, okay, if you all come out at the same time, then you won't have that stigma associated. And so that made a great step forward. So given this kind of general introduction to the topic, I think that the scientists in the crowd, like Eric and me and so on, it opens up the opportunity that we can get more scientific collaboration. And so, part of, what I've done recently is, go before NSF and Senator Rounds and so on, and talk about opening up exploration and scientific investigation to try to come ahead. But we needed to have a more open tapestry, in the public. And so that's what I think Dan Farah did for us. So I really appreciate it.
Can I all y'all just take a little bit of step away from the screen for me? I know you're making my projectionist nervous. Dr. Nolan, can you speak a little bit about one of the things I had never heard anything about was the biological effects that have been seen from people who've interacted with the crafts and how it's made these biological changes on human beings. What are you hoping that comes out of the public being more aware about that piece of information?
Well, I think the first part of it is that, our servicemen and women and intelligence community operatives are being put in harm's way often at, even though they don't even know what's being done to them. And that offends me deeply as a scientist and somebody who works in medicine regularly. I mean, it was basically how I got brought into this, was being shown the kind of data that had people who clearly were harmed. You just can't argue with it. And what was fascinating was, and this sort of gets back to the theme of stigma, when I approached some of my dearest colleagues at Stanford saying, hey, here's this data, I've been allowed to share it with you. And they asked, well, how happened? I said, well, it was UFOs. Oh my God. It was like, I'm sorry, I have something to do. But what was fascinating, though, and I think that this film is really going to help that, is this put together a consistent story told both with emotion and facts. And the facts aren't just these events happen, but here are the conclusions that we have actually dared to come to about what they are. And that's going to help me try to convince my colleagues, both at Stanford and through, say, the Soul Foundation, the other things that we're doing, to feel more comfortable to come forward themselves. So this has done a great service, I think, Dan, what you've done here, not just to the community at large, but to the academics that I try to serve.
Okay, for Michael, can you talk a little bit about that stigma and around everything UAP and how that's created such a big hurdle for our country most specifically, and why it's important that this is the moment to address that?
Sure. When I was on NASA's UAP independent study team, we had a number of academics. And just for participating in the UAP independent study team, these academics had their careers threatened, not even for saying that UAP was real, but just for having the temerity of even looking at the topic. How can you conduct science under those conditions, where there's such bias and such prejudice? And that's why we need the power of film. What Dan has done, and the heroes of this stage have enabled, is create a documentary. The power of film is South by Southwest putting it forward to push back on that stigma, to acknowledge the reality. We look at the power of an inconvenient truth, of what that documentary did. Well, here's a really inconvenient truth. And thanks to Dan, we're pushing back. But let this film be a call to action. As Jay was saying, let this be a catalyst now for all of you to call your members of Congress, demand transparency, demand accountability, and demand the truth on UAP.
Okay, for Tim, value that we've spoken a lot about, obviously, everyone was very aware of the UAP activity in the skies, but as the Navy Rear Admiral and the former Chief Oceanographer, which is the coolest job of all time, I think your expertise is more focused on the seas, and part of your testifying before Congress was about that. Can you talk a little bit about what you think should happen next with regards to that? And if you think like what is happening down there is as shocking as what's happening up here and you just don't know yet?
Well, exactly. We have observed UAP in the oceans, but the oceans, as I said, are so unexplored. If we only amp up the amount of research we're doing in the oceans, we're bound to learn more about UAP. And actually, that is what I'm making a call for right now, is that we have a large American ocean science enterprise with many ships that universities own as well as research institutions, and they operate drones and satellites to study the ocean. I think that whole enterprise needs to get around and take seriously researching UAP, in addition to others like the space science enterprise. I think our whole American scientific enterprise needs to get behind this and take it seriously. And the one thing I've called for is I've engaged the new White House science advisor, a friend of mine, and I've asked him to put UAP research as one of the top items in the annual White House R&D priorities memo, and something the White House does every year. And when they do that, every agency has to follow it. And that's how we're going to get agencies like mine, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, as well as NASA and the DoD to have a whole of government research approach to UAP. Now, let me just say, Dan, thank you for this, and thank you for keeping that comment in about the Super Walmart.
I love that. Dan, I'm going to pass it back to you to wrap us up. What do you want to leave us with on this one?
Well, one positive report, I've been told by a few leaders in the current administration that the age disclosure is playing a key role in their own efforts internally to disclose. So I think we can expect the film, when it's released publicly, to be part of a bigger picture of disclosure. So thank you all just for being such a great first audience. If you guys enjoyed it, please go out and tell your friends and family about the documentary. Spread the word on social media. If you feel inclined, please get on Rotten Tomatoes and give us a good review. And before we leave too, there's some people that were really key to this that couldn't be here, that tried to be. I just want to drop a few names. Secretary Rubio was unbelievable and supportive behind the scenes. Senator Rounds, Senator Gillibrand, Lou Elizondo couldn't be here tonight. All these people helped a lot to make this happen. And everybody up here really went above and beyond, not just doing interviews, but helping me behind the scenes, guiding me, giving me the right introductions, and validating me. Jay Stratton, you man. So, thank you all.
Tell all your friends.
Tell all your friends. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
And don't forget, you can vote for this film in the audience. You want to scan that QR code, go on that.
All right, there we go.